morning, you're watching Addis News Hour. I'm Zoot Desalegn. Thank you for joining us and do stay tuned. The FDRE Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed held a telephone conversation the previous day with French President Emmanuel Macron. Their conversation covered a range of multifaceted cooperation between the two countries. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed stated that the cooperation between Ethiopia and France is built based on mutual trust and respect, which spans 125 years. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed tweeted after his discussion with the French president, quote-unquote, "Always good talking to my friend, President Emmanuel Macron. The cooperation between our two countries spans 125 years based on trust and respect. Today, we have discussed various facets of our cooperation." President of the International Committee of the Red Cross, Mirjana Spoljaric, has arrived in Addis Ababa for a two-day official visit. According to ICRC Ethiopia, Mirjana Spoljaric is expected to meet Ethiopian government officials and officials of the Ethiopian Red Cross Society, African Union officials as well. ICRC stated that the President ICRC is also expected to meet and discuss with various officials about the humanitarian situation in the country and the impact of the conflict in the region and affected communities. Ethiopian President Sahle-Work Zewde says no one could compromise on the production of quality products as it is a key development factor of a nation's economy. The president also called upon Ethiopian diasporas and Ethiopian nationals who are residing abroad to invest in Ethiopia in various sectors for the development of the country. Shagai Mato has more on that. Take a look.
Ethiopian President Sahle-Work Zewde visited Horizon Addis Tire Factory that won Quality Assurance Certificate for 3 consecutive years for its outstanding performance from Ethiopian Quality Award Organization. While visiting the overall activities of the factory, the President lauded Horizon Addis Tire Factory, which is the only tire factory in Ethiopia and a branch company of Midrock Group, for its excellent handling of employees and job creation.
Workers are the most mandatory elements in a factory. Without vibrant workers, machines alone are nothing. Therefore, keeping the protection of workers is essential, and I have witnessed a good working culture and proper handling of workers in this factory.
Appreciating Sheikh Mohammed Hussein Ali Alamuddin for establishing a large investment Midrock company, she called upon Ethiopian diasporas residing abroad to play their unprecedented role to invest in various sectors in Ethiopia.
Your role is indispensable for the existence as well as the economic development of the country. So I call upon all of you to play your share in this venture.
Ethiopian news agency reported that, awarded for 3 consecutive years for its outstanding performance, Horizon Addis Factory is producing quality tire products for heavy vehicles.
Commander of the Peacekeeping Center of the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, Major General Adamneh Mengistu, said efficacious maneuvers are expected to be undertaken in order for Ethiopia to be able to maintain its long-standing engagement in the United Nations peacekeeping missions. In the 6-month work performance review held at the center, the commander said that Ethiopia should enhance its ascendancy in order to protract its participation in international peacekeeping missions. He commended the example of the cost-saving measures taken by the Huso Contingent Training School in renovating and returning government properties to work. The commander stated that peacekeeping force engaged in the international peacekeeping mission should continue the effective peacekeeping operations and transform the reputation of Ethiopia to a higher level. The IMF expects the economies of Ethiopia and Angola this year to expand by 13.5% and 8.6% respectively on dollar terms. However, Kenya is projected to record slower growth of 2.4% of the review period as the country grapples with the aftershocks of the COVID-19 pandemic, drought, election leaders, and disruption of global supply chain by the Russia-Ukraine war. The Ethiopian Diaspora Service is undertaking activities to provide recognition to Ethiopian diaspora organizations who have contributed greatly to the national interest of Ethiopia in various fields over the world. Approached by ETV Diaspora Community Development Director of the Ethiopian Diaspora Service, Nabiyu Solomon, said the event is intended to give recognition and thanks for the diaspora on the work done to protect the interests of the country and strengthen public diplomacy. Johannes van Town has the following account. Take a look.
When Ethiopia has been under a lot of pressure for the past few years due to undue external forces, in addition to the policies and various political solutions adopted in the country to deal with the problem, the contribution of the Ethiopian diaspora organizations in different parts of the world has been playing significant role. Members of the Ethiopian diaspora community in different parts of the world have made a great contribution on remittance by directly opposing the pressure of international institutions and countries in a bid to support the nation's economy. The Ethiopian Diaspora Service is undertaking preparation in order to recognize the unprecedented role of Ethiopian diasporas. Talking to ETV English Diaspora Community Development Director at the Ethiopian Diaspora Service, Nabiyu Solomon said the recognition will help to encourage the Ethiopian diaspora to strengthen their support for their country in the future.
The main genres or sectors which are focused by this recognition is like knowledge and skill transfer. Means those diasporas who contributed an enormous amount of support and contribution to their country in terms of knowledge and skill transfer, remittance, community development, development finance, like financing mega projects which are going on, national mega projects in Ethiopia, like the GERD. And also there are a way of saying thank you for Ethiopian advocacy teams, those who are participating in advocacy and supporting national projects. And also there will be a recognition for diaspora public diplomacy activity participants in general.
According to Solomon, various incentives are being implemented at the national level for the Ethiopian diaspora communities.
There are a number of opportunities and incentives for the diasporas to engage in their countries. The first one is introducing a yellow card, which enables them to participate in their countries as citizens, as first citizens, as citizens of their original country of origin. And also there is an introduction of different enormous incentives in investments, in trade, in diaspora remittance opportunities, and also diaspora accounts, which enables them to save their own cash or money, foreign currency monies, here in their countries. And at the same time, based on its mandate, Ethiopia Diaspora Service always supports diaspora initiatives and also at the same time recognized by organizing such kind of events.
The diaspora organizations outside the country have carried out many activities to protect Ethiopia's national interests. According to the Ethiopian Diaspora Service, the recognition program is where the country appreciates its diaspora.
You're watching Addis News Hour, and we have arrived to the trending segment of what's been trending so far over the past 24 hours. And I'm joined by our staff member, Daniel Kassan. Good morning, Daniel.
Good morning, Doctor.
So with that being said, as we have to cut to the chase towards the trending points of what's been happening so far for the past 24 hours, I think you have a brief explanation or a brief illustration with regards to the diaspora contribution for their country origin during difficult times of their own country, which is Ethiopia. And with that regard, of course, it has been previously mentioned that the Diaspora Community Development Director of the Ethiopian Diaspora Service, Nabiyu Solomon, said that the event is intended to give recognition and thanks for the diaspora on the work done to protect the interests of the country and strengthen public diplomacy. So I think you do have more on that.
Right. Today, the first of its kind Ethiopian Diaspora Organization Recognition Program will be held at Skylight Hotel, and 52 diaspora organizations are going to be recognized for their contribution, particularly with reference to the past 2 years in which Ethiopia was on the warring situation, on the conflict situation, and we remember the volcano erupted in the northern part of Ethiopia, which affected political, social, and economic lives of citizens living there, and it affected the entire political, economic, and social sectors of the country for the past 2 years, and the problems were from internal and external sources, and there were lots of destructive forces who tried aggressively in order to affect the coexistence and the territorial integrity and the sovereignty of this country. And the past 2 years in which Ethiopia passed was a huge challenge for the country and the people. And fortunately, due to the collaborative efforts of Ethiopians from within the country and from abroad, Ethiopia was able to withstand the challenging situation, and we can say Ethiopia has survived. It was a threat, an existential threat it was an existential threat for the country. It was a matter of survival for the country. But fortunately, collaborative efforts of Ethiopians, particularly from abroad, was immense. The Ethiopian diaspora, they have been tested. They have passed through the litmus paper. And it's proved that they are real citizens of Ethiopia. You see, when heat challenge comes, you will identify who is who. So most of the Ethiopian diaspora residing abroad, through the leadership of their organized groups, have contributed a lot in different means. Even in the Diaspora Trust Fund, they have contributed a lot for the projects to uplift their citizens from poverty. And they have also fought the hardest fight with the politicians in their respective countries, because there were lots of impositions, there were lots of interferences from abroad, from governments or Western powers. They have been doing lots of interferences which was not expected from a country in which you have diplomatic relationship. If you have a real diplomatic relationship, the relationship has to be a win-win approach, and they have to respect the unity, sovereignty, and integrity of Ethiopia. And that was too much interfered, and the diaspora in the Western countries, they were vocal enough to defend the sovereignty and the integrity of Ethiopia. That's why the Ethiopian government is going to recognize them today. 52 diaspora organizations are going to be honored, acknowledged, and they're going to be awarded. I don't know what's going to be given, but we will see it in the afternoon. We will bring it in our evening news, and that will be very nice. But the session that's going to happen today is not only to recognize and to depart, but to strategize for future developments, because a lot remains to be done in this country in order to help the affected people, in order to help the entire citizen to enjoy the expected life in the social, economic, and political spheres. So a lot is going to be expected, and more will be done, and those diaspora organizations will be strengthened very well in order to help Ethiopia to achieve its aspired prosperity.
Thank you very much, Daniel, for the brief illustration of what's been trending so far.
Thank you.
At the Royal Danish Embassy in Addis Ababa, the Danish Minister for Development Cooperation and Global Climate Policy, Dan Jørgensen, held a press conference. The minister elaborated on the years of development cooperation between Ethiopia and Denmark and said his country wishes to strengthen the long-standing relations. According to the minister, Denmark is Ethiopia's main development partner and is prepared to deepen its ties with Ethiopia in a number of areas, including the Green Legacy Project and green renewable energy, because Denmark has a wealth of expertise in these areas. Take a look.
Very often, if a country is dealing with some of the challenges that Ethiopia is dealing with, refugees, lack of food, water, other places, they might be reluctant to also have high ambitions on a green transition. And that is understandable, because you cannot deal with all problems at the same time. But Ethiopia is actually managing to deal with both addressing the challenges that you as a country are facing right now, but also preparing for the future and working towards fighting climate change and being a leader and front runner in that. So I think that the green legacy is an example that I would hope other countries would follow, and I understand also that already now it's possible to export small trees to other countries that they can then plant. This is of course fantastic. Planting trees is one of the best ways to fight climate change, because not only will it extract carbon from the atmosphere, it also has positive effects vis-a-vis biodiversity. Some trees, if it's a plantation.
Following his visit to the internally displaced persons in Afar, Jørgensen stated that his government is prepared to assist Ethiopia's government in reconstructing and rebuilding war-affected areas alongside other foreign development partners.
We also know that you are facing very serious challenges these years. We know very well that the conflict that hopefully now has come to an end has given many reasons to concern vis-a-vis some of the also more what you might call traditional challenges. So the fact that there's so many refugees in the areas of the country where there's also drought, where there's also lack of drinking water as a result of the drought, where it's difficult for people to find water for their livestock, where it's difficult to get medicine enough, where it's difficult to have education for children in school. All of these things are interlinked, and we want to help solve these problems and make life better for as many people as we can.
Mariam suggested possible ways how Ethiopia can transform its socio-economic well-being by scrapping bottlenecks which is facing the nation. According to the professor, few ideas to transform Ethiopian intellectuals into a formidable force of prosperity and progress, getting involved, articulating a vision, create and maintain think tanks, establish expert panels, teaching the youth, teaching the people, and finally act in solidarity with them. Tugusonis has gone through the commentary. Take a look.
Professor Alemayehu Gebramariam, who teaches political science at California State University, San Bernardino, in his commentary entitled Message to Ethiopian Intellectuals, A Mind is a Terrible Thing to Waste, discussed that in 1972 the United Negro College Fund launched a very successful advertising slogan, A Mind is a Terrible Thing to Waste. It was part of a fundraising campaign aimed at enrolling young, beautiful minds from low-income families into historically black colleges. The commentary further stated that in 2022, black students made up 12% of student population at four-year U.S. public higher education institutions. In 2022, the percentage of people in U.S. prisons and jails who are black is over 38%. What a terrible waste of beautiful minds. Al-Mariam's commentary is intended to be a clarion call to Ethiopian intellectuals to stop wasting their minds, and with the fires of urgency of now to pull back back from the abyss of reactionary, toxic, ethnic, tribal politics and become revolutionary forces, intellectual vanguards of national reconciliation, development and prosperity. The commentary further reiterated that whatever problems Ethiopia has is not going to be solved by the West or East. It will not be solved by superpowers or regional powers. It will not be solved by multilateral banks and institutions. Ethiopia's problem will be solved by beautiful Ethiopian minds innovating, creating, inventing, imagining, envisioning, researching, civilly discussing, dialoguing, arguing, and debating. But Al-Mariam argues that beautiful Ethiopian minds are wasting and atrophying before our eyes. Ethiopian intellectual horsepower and candle power remains idle, and without an organized body to transfer it to Ethiopia and transform Ethiopian society, economy, and politics. The commentary indicated that the gates of Ethiopia's prosperity will open when Ethiopians open their eyes and minds and behold the extraordinary wealth they have in their land, history, culture, tradition, and galvanizing potential of current generation of youth to propel Ethiopia to the height of prosperity. From time immemorial, there has been only one Ethiopia. There is only one Ethiopia today. There will be only one Ethiopia until kingdom comes. Ethiopia today stands at the fork in the road, the commentary indicated. Al-Mariam further stated that one road is called prosperity, the other poverty. Prosperity road is one much less traveled by the Ethiopian people. Poverty road is a dirt road full of potholes and crisscrosses Ethiopia. Poverty road's destination is always a dead end, he says. He further elaborated that it is noble and sacred duty of Ethiopian intellectuals to pave over poverty road and use minds to turn Ethiopia into multi-lane highways and freeways of prosperity and progress. Al-Mariam further stated that Ethiopian minds, hearts, guts kept Ethiopia free and independent for thousands of years. Ethiopian minds, hearts, and guts will keep Ethiopia free, independent, and prosperous until kingdom come. He added that he saw millions of Ethiopian youths yearning, craving, and hungering to learn, to imagine, to discover, to innovate, to create, to invent, and asked himself and Ethiopia's diaspora intellectuals, why not help them? Why not? It's not terrible to waste one Ethiopian mind, millions of young Ethiopian minds, he noted. Al-Mariam argues that the challenge of Ethiopian intellectuals is to find ways of transforming themselves into public intellectuals, and he further suggested the following few ideas to transform Ethiopian intellectuals into a formidable force of prosperity and progress: getting involved, articulating a vision, creating and maintaining think tanks, establishing expert panels, teaching the youth, teaching the people, and finally, act in solidarity with them.
Some Russian anchor companies expressed desire to engage in various sectors in Ethiopia, saying that the conducive climate created in post-war Ethiopia has served them as a catalyst. The companies made the remark after displaying their products at the 4th International Trade Exhibition in Addis Ababa on Monday. Meanwhile, Russian ambassador to Ethiopia told ETV the decision by the companies helps the long-standing Russia-Ethiopia relations blossom via technology transfer. Haptam Shagri has more on that. Take a look.
Over 100 international companies from over 30 countries displayed their products and services in the Fall's International Trade Exhibition in Addis Ababa. The Russian involvement is expected to complement and consolidate the already established bilateral cooperation between Ethiopia and the Russian Federation in different sectors, agriculture, industry, and education being the prominent ones. Given Ethiopia's commitment to help Russian companies find their place in Africa, investment opportunities in fields such as manufacturing, agriculture, mining, tourism, electricity, and military technical cooperation, among others, stand out for the companies.
5 companies from Russia are presented. As far as I understand, most of them are engaging in production of different items which are essential for especially for construction and building industries. As we all know, construction business is now booming in Ethiopia, so I hope that our companies will find a good market for their products here in your country. As well, we're sure that such kind of events as this exhibition are always very useful in terms of establishing trade and business relations directly between businessmen, business persons of different countries. And I'm sure that especially in the future, more Russian businessmen will come here not only to present their own products, but as well as to make choice of Ethiopian export products, which could be of interest for our consumers.
Over 100 international companies are displaying products and services in the area of food and kitchen, medical and healthcare, automotive and spare parts, plastic, printing and packaging, solar products, among others. Exhibitors for their part said the exhibition is critical to promote products and services as well as to create business-to-business ties with other companies.
We produce the skirting boards from MDF, and we also produce the walls panels that can be used either for walls or like the facade of the buildings, exterior and interior design. So we have different shapes that why we call it modular, because you can mix them together and you can, it's like a construction. It's very easy to install, like no need any some special knowledges, just glue it and you will have a very beautiful like wall, or you can use it even in the bathroom.
Israel's army and the U.S. Central Command announced the beginning of a massive joint military exercise in the Jewish state, according to a senior defense official. CENTCOM said in a statement dubbed the Juniper Oak exercise, the drill is the most significant exercise between the United States and Israel to date and will involve over 140 aircraft, 12 naval vessels and artillery systems from both nations and will last until Friday. Kasaun Chani has the latest.
The joint military training is described as the most significant exercise between the United States and Israel. In a statement, Israel's army said Juniper Oak is meant to test United States-Israeli readiness and improve the interoperability of forces as well as target strikes and training in complex terrain while integrating joint communications and command and control systems.
To answer your last question up front, no, this is not meant to be oriented around any single adversary or threat. As you know, the United States maintains many relationships in the Middle East region with many countries. Israel is one of our closest partners in the region. And as I mentioned, this gives us the opportunity to work together to increase interoperability, to be able to respond to a variety of contingencies and threats, so that should we need to operate together, we can do so seamlessly.
The previous Israeli Chief of Staff, Aviv Kochavi, was transferred from the United States European Command Airwave responsibility to CENTCOM, allowing more coordination with Air Startup Nibals. CENTCOM Commander General Mikhail Eric Kuril met last week with Israel's new Chief of Staff, Herzi Halevi, and Kochavi at the exchange ceremony. Kuril also held a meeting with Israel's new Defense Minister, Yoav Gallant, in Tel Aviv.
This exercise is focused on interoperability and strengthening our security relationship in terms of working together. And as evidenced by, most recently the counter-ISIS campaign, the ability to pull air forces together seamlessly and operate in a way that is going to be effective is vital. And so this is one aspect of that, although the exercise is obviously more than just about air power. And so, again, it's not intended to be focused on any one single adversary or threat. It's all about working together.
The United States Central Command said that in the meeting, Korea discussed common traits ways to strengthen ties between our two militaries and on upcoming joint training exercise. An Israeli army spokesman said the United States notified Israel about the move, that the weapons are American-owned and that the move was American business and did not require Israeli permission.
The day that's their decision given the situation on the ground. Okay. Let me go to the phone here real quick. Howard Altman.
And now let's take a recap of the top stories once again. Ethiopian President Sahle-Work Zewde says quality products are key factors for economic development. And the Ethiopian Diaspora Service is ready to provide recognition to Ethiopian diaspora